Bless Radio, and it's just after 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening, and this is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I am Saad here in Bromley in southeast London, and with me I should have Gregory. Gregory, are you there?
Hello.
Welcome to the show, Gregory. I assume you're in Brussels again today?
Yes.
Welcome. So here in Bromley in southeast London it's dark again as winter as we know, but it's been milder this week. It's getting a bit warmer. I think it's got to 9. Now, before I do that, I just want to give you the phone number to contact us. If you have any questions or comments, the number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, Uprushing, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover through the intuitive perception if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the 5 senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdrushi. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is discerning the truth. And you're very welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as usual, I did look in the dictionary at the meaning of the title. Is the topic rather. The topic is discerning the truth. So the first word is discerning. So I checked up in the dictionary discern, and it says there recognize or find out. It's very simple and straightforward there. Would you say that is a accurate meaning of discern?
The meaning of discern or discerning depends on the perception which is attached to it. Therefore, you may find that in some dictionaries, they look at things differently. Some may say discerning means to distinguish. However, to be able to have a more precise and all-embracing picture, one must see these things from an intuitive point of view.
Okay. I won't ask you to define intuitive point of view just now. We will, because we're going to look at this more deeply as we go. So, okay, so I will now move on to this other word, the truth, or truth actually. And the simple meaning I found in the dictionary for truth, it's conforming to fact. Actuality, I think that's another word they've used. So let's say conforming to fact or reality. Again, Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to that?
Well, like we said, first we must understand what we are discussing in this particular forum. That this forum, the purpose of this forum basically is to point to the work in the light of truth, the Grail message, as a reference framework upon which many a thing may be discerned. Because that's the case, for one who intends to discuss these things very deeply, the need therefore arises to see things from a more intuitive point of view. And therefore, when we have the expression discerning the truth, having to take discerning and then truth to examine them separately, one may not have a precise picture. Therefore, one would prefer to take the expression as a whole, discerning the truth.
Okay, yes, I agree. I've broken it into two words, discern and truth, but of course it's really one, the topic is discerning the truth, and so we must look at it together for sure. It's recognizing or distinguishing, as we use in the dictionary, and about the truth, or for distinguishing that. So that we need to take it as a whole concept, not purely as two separate concepts. And you pointed out there, we need to look at it from the intuitive point of view. And so first I want to check, Gregory, is intuition or intuitive point of view, is that like, how can I say, focused from one direction, or is it more all-encompassing? So I just want to get in fact, it's almost like I'm asking a definition of intuitive. So what do we mean when we say intuitive? Is it like focused from one direction, or is it, because when you say point of view, it sounds like it's one aspect, and then the other aspects also. And so, yes. So is the intuitive point of view just one angle, or is it all-encompassing?
More, one would say more of all-encompassing, and having a bird's eye view, all-encompassing, and it gives you a dynamic picture rather than a static picture.
Okay, so that's good. Now we have a framework we can work from to look at this topic tonight, discerning the truth. So we've said is have to use the intuitive point of view to discern the truth. Now, another thing I want to establish, Gregory, when we talk about the truth, is it only spiritual truth are we going to be discussing tonight, or are we going to talk like earthly facts? I won't use the word fact in just as equivalent of truth. So are we only referring? So in the discussion tonight, are we thinking only of spiritual truth, or are we also including like earthly realities?
Well, with the word intuition, one already hits upon the right framework, in the sense that one is discussing that which is spiritual, but however, the activity which manifests in an earthly point of view. So again, you find it's all encompassing. One must also realize that the discussion basically is pointing to the work in the light of truth, which is basically spiritual. How these things manifest on earth, one can also look at it. So it's a holistic style rather than a piecemeal approach.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, there's a common saying, seeing is believing. And I know we're talking from the moment discerning the truth through an intuitive point of view, and I haven't gone into what is intuitive point of view yet, fully into that yet. So but I want to just use this concept of, or the saying, seeing is believing. When people say that, seeing is believing, first of all, but does that imply that when you see something that and then believe it, that is like seeing the truth? Is that also seeing the truth, or is that just sorry?
Don't forget, when they said seeing is believing, that seeing is believing is in quotes. So it's only used in a different style. One can also say, okay, if you do not see something, but you hear something, can you get the truth out of it? Does it mean hearing does not grant one the truth? What about touching? What about smelling? Therefore, one can just take it from a superficial point of view. That expression, seeing is believing, only refers to an intuitive point of view of recognition. Haven't experienced it intuitively, haven't examined it thoroughly, then one may believe. It doesn't mean that's only what one has seen. A simple example is that Here you can see, you wake up in the morning, you see the sun rising from the east and setting in the west. People believe it, but that is not a fact. Because if you take it as a fact, you see the sun rising and then setting, whereas it is the earth that turns around. So you find that these points being raised are just approximation or a very narrow point of expressing oneself, whereas the intuitive point of view, which gives a holistic perspective, is what is needed to be able to explain things further down the line.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, because you've really painted a picture there of sort of the limitation of when you say some phrase where if you really don't have, if you just take it literally, let's say, you definitely would not end up with the right understanding. And but as they say, if you listen to it from the spirit of what is being said, then, as you said, when I said seeing is believing, seeing can include. Okay, looks like I had a call, but it looks like it's gone now from a listener, I think. But so yeah, sorry, I'll carry on. So as I was saying, when you look at that phrase, seeing is believing, on the surface, it if you take it literally, you know that is a limited way of seeing something. But if you include other, let's say similar things like you said, Gregory, hearing, touching, smelling, those senses that we have, yeah, you can include that, and then that is also believing because you've seen it or you've smelled it. It's also there. You can say that that's there. So now, and I was watching TV this morning, and right now, Gregory, we are in lockdown, as you know, and the children are at home. They're not, well, some children are going to schools, it's true, the key worker children, but let's say majority are not. They're doing online. And so on the TV, they're also giving, let's say, lessons or to help the children study. And I was watching something there, and something came there which was about, recognizing patterns, where it's like the human mind. This is about perception, Gregory, what I'm talking about, really. You see something, and some sort of pattern, let's say, and the brain just connects what it sees and makes a conclusion that that's what that is. Whilst in reality, that's like an interpretation the brain is doing, and it may not actually be that in reality, but that's what we do, see a pattern and connect the two things together. So, and then, what we're talking about tonight is discerning the truth. And, so if you, let's say, only see part of the picture, like I mentioned, a pattern, and then you start concluding that, oh, that is exactly what it is, but you have only seen part. And that's not actually what it is. It's just a part of what you've seen. So what I want to ask, Gregory, you've mentioned about the intuitive point of view being all-encompassing. Is that really true that we can see, like, I was going to say everything, maybe that's too much, that we can really see reality in this all-encompassing way? Because it sounds a bit too grand for our capabilities, from knowing the human being with his weaknesses and so on. So can really a human being see that in an all-encompassing way?
The human spirit or the personality can only perceive as far as its maturity goes. More than that, it will be meaningless to him or her. So this all-encompassing way has a bearing also on the personality who is doing the experiencing. For someone who is more matured, who has a deeper insight, that means a more clearer intuitive perception, that particular person can see more than others. Take, for instance, for many people, their training enables them to see more than others can see. In the case of music, there are some who perceive deeper. For one who is not in that particular field, then he or she is limited. The same thing with the painter. So there must be a tool. Generally, the tools that the personality has are the five senses. However, the experiencing of a particular impression is different. So these things depend on the inner maturity of the person experiencing or doing the examination.
Thank you, Gregory. You brought out another point there, really, because let's say there's a truth there, what is reality, but how people see it or experience it or perceive it, it varies between people or between individual. And so, and then you start from what you're saying, it sounds, that's like, how can I say, it's not quite satisfying to see that, there's some people, someone can see like better than another person. You'd think all human beings have the same capabilities, same senses. We all have the senses, and you'd think, why should one person have an advantage over another? Is especially about the truth, because truth is something we rely on those in the truth. That this is how it's supposed to be. So, Gregory, that sounds if there are people of different capabilities or abilities, is that, I don't want to say I was going to say, is it unjust or something? Is there something, something unjust there, that each individual is so different that they can't perceive the same?
The key thing here is that there are different individuals. How they use their capabilities varies. That's why they are different people. For instance, there are people, again, if we return to music, who can compose music and play instruments. There are some who have no inclination in that direction. Some, their inclination is medicine. Some, their inclination nowadays is football. So, do we expect that the person who goes about kicking the ball, who has been practicing, will have the same deeper perception as the one who has been playing music? These things are different. It is because they are different, that's why we have different personalities. However, they also have the same five senses to coordinate the impressions coming in. So one cannot say it is unjust. It only depends on the direction that individual has focused on.
Thank you again, Gregory. It really clarifies this, how our sort of journey through this topic of discerning the truth. Yes, thank you for that. And just like we are now really building on our framework, of how to discern the truth. So, okay, I'm going to use another saying, Gregory, because you said we have to discern the truth, we have to look from the intuitive point of view. Now, again, there's people say, think from the heart, or feel from the heart, and you could say think from your head. And where does that fit in with regard to the intuitive point of view?
When it is mentioned with the expression, when he said, think from your heart, what basically happens is that one must look at the process that occurs, the center, all right, the initial point. As many may know, the heart is very close. It's not far from the solar plexus. The heart is maybe referred to as a center. That center where impressions either emanate in contact with the physical body, therefrom to be expressed externally. Therefore, when it is said to think from the heart, intuitively, which is more or less an intuitive perception, is to let the impressions that come from the center, which is referred to the heart, to play out themselves, rather than the impressions which have been stored in the head. For the brain basically is what we refer to as a data center, which has been collected. For many who have gone through challenges mentally or some other ways, sometimes their heads are clean of all the data they have sort of accumulated over years. But that which comes from the heart, albeit straight from the spirit or from the soul, that one is more permanent. That can be utilized.
From what you're saying, Gregory, it sounds like what you hear from the heart, or what you think or listen, what you hear in your heart, let's say, has, first of all, it is more spiritual, and then number two, you're saying it's let's say, higher than what you think from your, I'm going to use like from your head, I have to put that in quotes, so, or your intellect is the other word we've used here. So basically, I'll just repeat that, Gregory. So listening from your to your heart, let's say, has a higher value than listening to your, let's say, your head or thinking. Would that be correct?
One would say they are complementary. For whatever comes from the heart still need to go through the head to be interpreted in an earthly fashion to make any sense. Else, it will not make much sense. So the head, so-called, complements the heart.
Thank you again for that picture, Gregory, because sometimes it's like taking sides. Oh, one thing is better than the other. But here, when you say complementary, then working together, then it's starting to say, oh yes, this has a use, the heart has a use, the head has a use, and they work together, and that just somehow sounds, very. I was going to use the word plausible, but it just sounds real. Somehow it sounds real compared to, oh, this is right and that is wrong. It just seems, these things are there and they're all meant to be used. So why should be one, in quotes, better than the other? It's just they work together. So thank you for that. Now, so thinking about that more, Gregory, when they're doing investigation of crimes and the police are using forensics to solve the crime, how do we, because it's like we've mentioned, there's the heart and then there's the head, and they need to work together. So is there, Gregory, like when there's some clues, let's say, in the investigation, and you still don't know, what has happened in this crime, how could you sort of decide, oh, we need to go on this avenue rather than another avenue? Should we? It's like what my question is: should we look at just the physical clues, or should we have the hunch? Because people say, "Oh, I had a hunch." The police investigator had a hunch that he wants to try go for this angle, while somebody else, he just looks at what is the evidence there, physical evidence, and then just say, "Okay, I will just look here only." So, is there? Again, I'm asking a question of priority in a sense, or should we go with the hunch, or should we go with the evidence, physical evidence, in the way we want to explore or go on the route to investigation?
What happens in this case is that, like we mentioned, there must be a complementary. That which is physical evidence holds. Other ways will have to complement it. So one cannot just take one side. Most of the time, it is those areas which do not seem plausible that hold the complementary parts in an investigation.
So, sorry, Greg, could you just explain that? Say it again. I didn't quite understand that.
One had mentioned that the physical evidence is complementary to the non-physical evidence, which has to be included also. What one then added that in most cases, during the examination, it is those ways, those other pointers that do not seem plausible that may hold the other parts that need to be added for it to make sense.
Right. Yes, because obviously, I know that watching video films and TV shows is not always, although it might be based on reality, is not always how reality experiences are. But when you see it in those shows, you see, oh, yes, you think it's on the surface, it looks like this is what has happened, but then, as I say, with the hunch or something implausible, as you've so called it, could manifest. Oh yes, it could be this way too, which you may not originally think that way. So yes, so it's like you must always have that ability to look at, to allow you to explore, the reality that it could be some other thing which on the surface it is not that way. So you wouldn't know that. So yes, thank you for bringing that up. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. This is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you are interested in getting more information on the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is discerning the truth. Discerning the truth. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939 641 958. you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I received a few texts from a listener. I think he's just made some statements. I've actually got a question, actually, which I will put this question first, Gregory, because it's related to what we were discussing just as we were talking earlier. Gregory, I mentioned about the crime investigation and using forensics. So this listener's talking in that, with referring to that. It says, Saad, with forensics, surely the truth is what is the proof in front of you. Does the heart play a role in that? So I'll just repeat the question, Gregory. It says, my name's Saad. With forensics, surely the truth is what is the proof in front of you. Does the heart play a role in that?
One should know that with forensics, there is an investigation. And the facts that have presented themselves, that is only part of it. As with any investigation, the motive counts. The motive is what lies behind it. The facts on ground combined with the motive gives a more intuitive picture. Many a time when you have investigations by police, the facts have been outlined, but the motive have to be discerned.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Okay, I'm going to come back to the other comments from the listener when it's, let's say, more appropriate. So I will leave that for the moment. Gregory, I want to go to the sort of how we chose the topic tonight, and look at that in this sort of next part of this show right now. So I said, last week there was this. Let's say, we're not so concerned about the individual people, but about, what's behind it, as we say, Gregory. So, but I only want to refer to the story so that we can look at it, in more depth. So let's, as I said, there was this, let's say, attack on Capitol Hill, where one side was claiming that the election was stolen from them, and that's what they believed to be the truth and the fact. And then this other side, which was had you could say, confirming the election result to be that, let's say, Joe Biden, just to say the name, had won the election in America there. So there were two conflicting points of view, Gregory, and obviously both can't be correct. And then we also know, let's say, a particular view was being pushed, to say that what they are saying is the truth, and then these, let's say, people were following that, and then they were also convinced of it themselves somehow. And the other side, let's say, they're saying, no, our facts show that yes, there may have been some fraud, but that was not enough to change the result, as the other side was claiming there's been fraud. So my question is about this, Gregory. When people are believing so much with their conviction that they are right about what they believe, and another side believing what they believe, how can you, know that as a truth? Because it's almost like you persuade yourself to believe one thing, and another person persuades them to believe something else. And unless you are physically there to count these quotes or something, it's like you are just trusting one is right and the other one is right, or whichever is right. So how can we be sure in Gregory, because we're talking about discerning the truth? How can one know that which is the truth?
One would try to go slowly to throw light on this. In the walk, in the light of truth, there is the first for your guidance. And it says, the bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. However, at the last end of it, it says, conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. That means to have conviction, there must be a weighing in accordance with the laws of creation. When weighing is mentioned, think of weight, or more intuitively, gravitation comes in. The other part is examining. To examine is very close to discern. To discern in according to the laws of creation. Basically, that which is of the same kind are separated from that which is not of the same kind. So weighing and examination are part of the process which brings conviction. And therefore, the topic of tonight's discussion, discerning the truth, one can have that picture of vigorous activities. Vigorous activities not only on that which one has seen or on the facts which present themselves, but also what activates the facts. That is the motive. Therefore, one has to ask, in the question you posed, in your observation, what are the motives? The motive of those people whose activities obstructed those who are planning was to cause destruction. The motive is such that which they themselves have always enjoyed, those motives that have put that in place, they wanted to destroy or to disorganize. That which has kept the nation going for centuries, now they wanted to make it one-sided, that only what they themselves perceive as correct should be correct. In fact, most of those violent activities are not based on any strong point, but are manifestations of their personal weaknesses. Therefore, one may not use the manifestation of weaknesses as facts. For the facts which have been discerned, presented by those who were responsible, should be respected, just as they were respected in previous times and for different people. The key here is the motive, what lies behind it. To know that there must be an inflexible weighing and examination of that which has presented itself. Only through such means will clarity come in. Only through such can belief becomes conviction. One must ask those people, are they convinced? It's understandable that a person who sees the sun rising from the east and setting in the west will hold on to it, and we use it as a basis for their personal activities. For others who wishes to have a more intuitive point of view, that observation fails woefully. For the fact of creation is that it is the earth that spins on its axis, wobbles along. That will explain the seasons. That will explain so very many things. So these are the things that must be examined thoroughly, not just superficially. And that is why there are problems. For long ago, when the Pope made declaration that the earth is the center of the universe, anyone who dared to oppose had to lose their life. However, many cowards, only very few, disagreed. And those who disagreed and were able to articulate their points won the day before too long. So it's not more like people just agitating and say, oh, we are convinced and all that. There is more to it. It is the motive. And you must ask yourself, what was their motive? That motive must be examined in accordance to the laws of creation through which they themselves came into existence.
Thank you for that, Gregory. The listener who asked the question earlier, they've come back, Gregory, about your answer. And I know we're sort of going to and fro, but I think it's good to just continue and respond to this question. So this question, Gregory, they were asking earlier about the forensic evidence being the truth, and so how come the heart can play a role, in that? And you pointed to about the motive. You pointed out we need to look at the motive behind it. So now the listener has responded to what you said. I don't understand, what has the motive of the crime got to do with the heart when the proof of guilt is in front of you? So I'll just repeat that, Gregory. I don't understand.
I understand it.
Yes.
Let me take the instance of someone that you see that seems to have no problem, and that person commits a crime, in quotes. Say that person seems to have mental problem which no person knew. And then it said, oh, he committed a crime. Maybe he injured somebody. That's a fact. But in further examination, you find that that person is not mentally stable. Some of these things can happen as a matter of shock. When taken to the court and when examined, you may find that, yes, these are facts. However, what lies behind it is not that the inner personality wanted to do that, but had mental issues. How will the presiding judge pass a sentence? In many cases, they are referred to hospitals or somewhere else to ensure that that problem is taken care of. So in forensics or whatever it is, you find that it is not that people or the police just jump into conclusion. Anytime you have these facts, many times they say, okay, what's the motive? What could be the motive? There are some in which the motive, even if that person is okay, is so very different. A very simple example I would like to give, when you hear that one should not tell a lie, and that person holds it, and then a scenario which has to be examined very carefully. You have somebody rush into your house, and the person gets to your house, and he wants to hide, and you say no. And all of a sudden, you find somebody carrying a machete, pursuing this particular person, and then you hide that personality. And then when you are approached, have you seen this person? You said, no, I haven't seen the person. You have lied. Well, what was the motive? Therefore, the motive plays a part. In fact, it is the motive, what lies behind it, that is the critical part.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory, and I hope the listener was able to answer the question they were asking. I think what is clear, Gregory, we're not changing the facts with the forensics show that somebody did something, but you need to see the bigger picture, the context, as we always say, and in what you are using the word is motive. So when you see the bigger picture and you have the motive and the context in it, things can look a bit different than just the pure fact of one view that you see. It's like the big picture is always the real, what needs to be taken into consideration rather than just the, let's say, obvious. I use the word obvious, it might not be obvious, what is just in front on the surface. So thank you for that, Gregory. Now, moving on from from what you've just said there, Gregory, can we human beings, can we judge another human being in reality? Because I still somehow think, we say we see the big picture, or let's say you have a context, but I still think when somebody does something, do you know everything? Like you said, you should look at the motive. But can you really know the motive in every situation about a person? So can you judge, oh yes, this person did this, so they are guilty of this? And I sometimes think that we are not allowed to ever see the motive of another person. Some might be obvious, it's true, but not always. You'll be, let's say, have that possibility to know, oh, this is why this person did that. So my question is, Gregory, can we always judge a person? Are we able to do that?
To be able to pass a judgment, will entail to be able to see the overall picture. Because one cannot see the overall picture, not because the picture is not there, but because of the limitation of the tools which one is using in the examination. That then makes it impossible to see a finer picture of what has manifested. To be able to judge as you find it nowadays, that means to examine the facts and pass judgment or punishment on those you term guilty is a great responsibility. And therefore, it is very challenging, personally, for that presiding judge to be able to make pronouncement. For in the life of a human personality, in the way each human personality has woven his path not only in this earthly incarnation, but in other incarnation. It has set many things into motion, which motion is such that there will be reciprocal actions. And these reciprocal actions will come at different times. Therefore, for one who wishes to be a judge, the need is there to be able to bring all this into the equation. Therefore, it is very challenging. However, there are areas where, according to the laws of the state, many things are assumed. Then that becomes the responsibilities of the state. For many are unable to prove beyond reasonable doubts. There are some states that only want to examine the facts and not the motive. Like one side, there are people who, like soldiers, have been engaged in wars. And in that process, they went through terrible shocks and they become ill. If along the line you find them exhibiting either some mental problems or having fought in wars, and in their quiet reflection, they have terrible sense of guilt, how they then exhibit themselves varies. Therefore, any presiding judge must dig themselves into the facts, not only what they have seen, but to know what must have happened previously in order to be able to come to a better conclusion. It is more challenging than many think.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I've got a reply from the listener to your earlier response, but before I go to that, just want to remind listeners, you're listening to the Spiritual Discussion Program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday evening. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abrushin. And if you are interested in getting a copy or get more information on the Grail message, or get a want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE, grailmessage.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight, it is discerning the truth. Discerning the truth. And you're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I'm just got the as I said, reply from the listener to your earlier thing. This was about the forensic evidence in a crime investigation, about finding out who's guilty. And you mentioned about looking at we need to look at the motive. Let's say as a to get the bigger picture. So this is what the listener said now. Say, I'm sorry, but not all people who commit ghastly crimes are mentally unstable, and therefore there's no motive. There's no motive, but there's only the proof of guilt, which is what the science of forensics shows. So, Gregory, the point I think they're still saying is, yes, okay, there will be crimes, obviously, with them. They are mentally unstable people, but there will be many crimes where not mentally unstable people. And so for that, the forensic proof should be the proof of the guilt. How would you respond to that?
There is no need to respond to such, because when you visit the law courts and you ask a presiding judge, evidence, factual evidence as to what has occurred are presented. That is not taken to be the whole picture. The motive then comes into the equation. Without the motive, we only have facts, which facts are not clear as to why such things came into existence. Therefore, in all law courts, in all judgment, the motive is brought in as is more like a context, or what lies behind it, what must have. Take, for instance, a lady who injures a husband due to abuse. The facts are very clear. She did injure the husband. No matter how measurements are taken, the facts are there. But the motive is now brought into the equation. Always. Therefore, one should not just look at one side. One should look at the whole thing. When it is said forensic science, it only means that we have proofs, we have occurrences in which we can collect the facts as to build up to know why that happened. That is a different challenge altogether. It's a different challenge because we're not using instruments this time. One is looking at the psyche. What must have happened? Because there is a comparison in earthly laws or in accordance with the laws of creation. This is the norm or the normal behavior. Anything that exceeds, which is not the norm, has to be examined more.
Thank you for that, Gregory. With this pandemic, we've had a lot of, they call it conspiracy theories about COVID-19, about vaccines, and even other things which you would not think are related, but like, for example, I'll just use one with relation to the vaccine, where people are saying, oh, the vaccine is a way, is to control human beings. They're going to put something inside the vaccine which will like affect our DNA or something like this. And there's others, there's so many actually, let's say, stories. I won't call it all conspiracy theories, but let's say different views of what is behind it. Like you have been saying, what is behind this vaccine and what is behind COVID-19. And you've mentioned earlier, Gregory, we have to weigh and examine. Now, and you mean it quite vigorously. And in my head, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, but I'm not the scientist who can do the test of COVID-19 that I can determine this is COVID-19 or it's not COVID-19. And I'm not in the hospital, seeing the people suffering, because some people say, oh, this is exaggerated. It's not, it's just, let's say it's a flu. Yes, it's a serious flu, but, people are exaggerating the things happening. And so, I mean, there's so many stories, it's very hard to actually pick in one or two even to talk about it. So my question, Gregory, is when you are not, you've told us to weigh and examine vigorously, but if you are not experiencing these things directly, how do you, and then as I say, you hear conflicting story, one side telling you this, another side telling you this, because especially in this modern world of technology, how do you do that? How do you weigh and examine and, be confident that you're, assessing it correctly?
The question you ask is how? How can you tell that a pudding is sweet or not sweet, is good or not good, if you haven't yourself tasted the pudding? Most of the time, one has to rely on the judgment of others. A very simple example: you want to move from one place to another, and there are bridges on the way, and you have to enter one of the vehicles. You haven't been through these bridges before. How do you know that they will not collapse on the way because of the weight of the vehicle? How do you know that the plane you wish to take will not just rise and blow out into smithereens? These are the questions each personality must ask themselves. But for those who design, they test and test and test again. They are the ones who do the examination on our behalf. Just like you have the music composer having to spend some time reflecting on the parts that he wishes to use to compose a piece of music. The doctor must have spent some time in observation, in discerning different combinations and trying it out And when he or she is certain to some extent, because they never tell you it is 100% correct, they tell you the percentage to which they can rely on it. If one is not happy with that, that person is free to go his way and go for further examination. One must realize you cannot give to others what you do not have. What you have, you may share. And even when you share, it may be called conspiracies. Therefore, it now depends on the person who does the criticism and say, no, I can't take it. The same thing one may say, I cannot ride on the motor car. I cannot fly on the plane. I cannot eat this food. Only that which I've been involved with before, only that will I accept. That is a fair comment. But each one, whatever they have seen or heard, must take it within themselves, pass it from the frontal brain, which are connected to the senses, to the back brain, and straight to one's soul or spirit. Only there can one have a thorough examination, for it is the spirit that is supposed to be alive. That is what is intended. For we are always to examine whatever we see, whatever we hear. Actually, you yourself know, if you have a pot of water and take a ruler and put it inside, say, a glass of water, you see it bent. You see it doesn't mean that that is how it is. So many must examine for themselves. And for those who continue to examine, they can only share with you that which they have found, if they are honest.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I've got a listener talking about the vaccines. This COVID-19 vaccine they have produced in a very rapid time scale. Even at the beginning, they were saying you're not even sure there can be a vaccine, but somehow they did it in less than a year. And yet the usual process that takes maybe even 10 years with the testing, not to take 10 years to find a vaccine, but to do the full testing. And then they say, okay, now it's ready for use. But here we know it's been less than 1 year, and it's safe for use. And many people are skeptical. Oh, no, I don't believe, let's say, not sufficient testing has been done. It's not that it may not be safe, but it's not sufficiently been tested. So they're having doubts that this can be, fully tested. For example, Gregory, this particular one with COVID-19, they didn't test it on animals, and usually they do test on animals. So people are saying, there's not, it's not, they're not convinced by this. So let me just see what the person's saying. Yeah. So with that situation, Gregory, my question would be, when you know that, would you still call it safe to use as the scientists were claiming it, because they're saying it, or or should there be some reservations that this is not normal what you've done, but because of the situation, we've decided to go with this, just accept it?
Some of these questions have arisen because many have doubts within themselves. They have doubts because that which they have assumed to be the right thing happens so very quickly. Those who did the build-up of these vaccines had to test it out on fellow human beings. Only on that basis did they come out to say, this is their prognosis. This is the results they have found. And it can be verified by others. And it is said for those who wish, or for those nations who wish to accept the vaccines, this is the percentage of efficacy. It now depends on the accepting nation to check it out. They have done the best they could. It doesn't mean they have stopped there, but they keep refining it. But for others who have not lifted any finger, who have not brought out any solution that can be examined independently, or can tell us the percentage of efficacy which we ourselves may examine, such are best ignored. Because, like he stressed, you can only share that which you know. You cannot share that which you yourself do not know. If the efficacy is 10%, it is revealed. If it is 50%, it is revealed. In doing that, there are returns. When people have taken on these vaccines, it is then observed, how long does it protect them? So one, to a large extent, should not be asking some of these questions. Oh, how am I sure if I go into this plane, it's not going to crash? In the first instance, you don't have to. Must I take this vehicle? How am I sure it's not going to turn upside down? Should I take this train? It might have an accident. The engineers that designed these systems and the medical staff that built up these vaccines, as with anything, they do some tests. They will not ask you to take poison or to take snake poison and drink it or put it in your blood. For you yourself can discern without being injured that a snake venom will do you harm. You haven't taken it, and therefore you can move away. If in that case you want to be cautious, it is fair. But for the works of others, the bit which they have offered to their fellow human spirit, make use of it if you can. It doesn't mean that all human bodies are the same. There are different personalities, but whatever has been shared, you may make use of it.
Thank you. The person who replied, asked that question has now replied. Of course, everybody's entitled to their opinion, so I will just read the reply. It is, I will rely on my immune system, thank you very much, not on big pharmaceuticals with 99.98% of on I can't quite understand that it says 19, let's say 99, 100%, it is almost says. Sorry, I'll repeat that. Apologies for not reading properly. So the listener is saying, I will rely on my immune system, thank you very much, not on the big pharmaceuticals.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Sorry.
That's what they want to.
Just very quickly, so we can go to other questions. Of course,
Sure.
that person is right. That person who wishes to rely on their immune system, the question is that, do they trust 100% their immune system? Can they trust themselves that the state in which they are can withstand the so-called COVID scenario? If they are so sure of their immune system, let them, very sadly, inject the COVID into their system.
Okay. So I will move on. Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm going to return to the discussion earlier where we were talking about, Trump and Biden, you can say, about claiming what they were claiming. And as you know, Gregory.
Sorry. Can we move up to programs which are more spiritual? These ones are too personal and petty.
Yes,
and any person can already see this. This is more of a spiritual discussion, which is going to be of benefit. Else we spend time on American politics. There are other places, there are other human spirits that we wish to reach, not spend most of our time on the conditions in other countries.
Okay. I was going to, although I used one specific example, I wanted to make a general point from that, which is, I mean, the point is I do these questions. Yes, it might be, let's say, biased to one side, one aspect of the news. I can admit to that. But my point really is simply that I'm still referring to the spiritual perspective in our discussions. And okay, I won't mention the name, but basically, Gregory, what I want to say is when people speak their mind, let's say one person says one view, another says another view. That is called freedom of speech, you can call it, or free will. And then let's say some people are now saying, no, that's not allowed to, you're not allowed to say that, right? Or because it's harmful, or because of whatever reasoning they have. So what I want to ask Gregory in that is that right that one, let's say, organization can decide to restrict the free will or freedom of speech of one person versus others, let's say? Is that when really everybody has been given the freedom and free will to speak, or to think? So is it right to restrict somewhere that right?
Again, the context of this has not been examined. If I were to come to your property and discuss information, expose it to the outside world from your property, there is an initiation of an activity. There are returns. Whenever a person has sown, there are returns. If that is done in my property and the returns come and hit my property, that is fair. If, however, I do it in your property and then run away from your property, I take no responsibility. What then happens to your property? That is unfair. And what is discussed here is fairness. What is meant by free will to make decisions only makes sense when it is coupled with responsibilities. If there are no consequences, that means having made a decision, which decision brings confusion along the line, then you yourself, of course, are free to express yourself, but also free to shoulder the responsibilities. to show that the consequences, that is the part which is not mentioned in all these things. Oh, there is freedom. Of course there is freedom. There is freedom to sow. There is also the consequences of sowing. If that sowing brings death and destruction on others, you may say it is fair. If others have made such decisions which will bring death and destruction upon you yourself, would you say that is fair? Therefore, freedoms must be balanced with responsibilities. Where there is no responsibilities, then there has never been any freedom. And that is where many things fail. I can speak, but I don't want to take the consequences of speaking by insulting others, by setting the house on fire. By my speech, I incite other people who then cause so much, and many others are dead. Yet, no responsibility. The world, for it to go on continuously, must be subjected to checks and balances. It is in the balance of equilibrium, the dynamic balance of equilibrium, therein lies continuity. So it is not that one says, oh, I am free to do what I like. I don't care about others. And then you set fire on the properties of others. And then you say you're not responsible, but you yourself did. Where is the respect? Where is the self-respect? The final thing is that there must be freedom of speech, and each personality must be responsible for what they themselves have put into creation.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Really, what you're confirming or what you're highlighting is that we know there can be an action, as we know, but there will be a consequence to the action. And when you only look at the action and think, oh, so the action is just the action, but really there's always a consequence, and that consequences cannot be ignored. And so you mentioned about balance, about equilibrium. So there has to be a balance, there has to be equilibrium. So if you're going to go, let's say, pull so far in one direction, then obviously it has to be balanced somewhere. And if you go too far, then obviously it will be a terrible consequence in return for that. So, and people, it's easy to talk, as I say, words are free. It's easy to say or think what you think, but it's not in a vacuum that you're thinking. So you should always be aware that, oh, I've said something, I've done something, and there must be some result when I do that. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushing. And if you're interested in getting more information on the Grail message or want to get a copy for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. Grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is Discerning the Truth. Discerning the Truth. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, I want to look at, as you say, we should look more at the spiritual aspect of things. So, and we're talking about discerning the truth. And you know, spiritual teachings, there are many of them. And let's say we weren't there in when the spiritual teachings came, and then people believe, follow them, you know, after the teachers have come and gone, and we trust what we have been given is what it is, the truth. Let's call it the truth. That's what they brought. But as you pointed out, Gregory, we must always, we're talking about discerning the truth, which is weighing and examining. And so when, let's say, beliefs or teachings are putting something forward to us, that you must, this is how it happened, or this is what it is, the reality is, how can we, you know, I mean, there's things which are like in common, it's easy to accept, you know, doing good, let's say, love thy neighbor, you can already feel that is, you know, in common with everything. But the issue starts, let's say, difficulty starts when you can't find, or let's say there are discrepancy or conflicts, let's say between either within the same teaching or with similar teachings, you can say. So what do we do there, Gregory? Do we just, let's say, okay, we ignore that bit, that way there's a conflict, or just, yeah, leave it aside? Or should we examine that as well? Should we actually, you know, because in a way we are looking always for peace and harmony. And so, yes, should we address those points which there's a conflict?
Whenever one sets out to discern the truth, that personality becomes like a seeker. A seeker that wishes to find that which is the truth, in the sense that which is true yesterday must also be true today and must be true tomorrow. For if it were true yesterday and it changes to be untrue today, and again the day after it changes to be true or untrue, it means one is unable to rely on it. So that which is reliable, that we can use as a framework, becomes the truth. And in the walk, in the light of truth, one of the guides which have been put there is that conviction which we wish to have. Conviction is that which has no doubt, certainty, precision. That can only come about through weighing. Weighing first with one's intuitive perception. When one refers to weighing, that is already, that which is lighter will rise, and that which is dense will sink. That is an emotion which every person knows. And again, it also mentions examination. To examine is to discern, to distinguish. You distinguish one from another. That means you distinguish different kinds. For if they are of the same kind, you don't need to distinguish them. Because one is talking of the same kind, it's like one is referring to homogeneous types, same type. It's in that one sees, one experiences an attraction. You feel attracted if you are a seeker. You are a seeker after truth. So it's as if there is an attraction. If one strives to understand it rightly, one can already perceive, hovering above one's activities, that law which does not change, that law that forms the basis, the framework of all, upon which others may change. And those are the laws of nature, or more precisely, the laws of creation. With weighing comes gravitation. With discerning as such, in examination, comes the law of homogeneity. And due to one's constant activities, that already gives a strong impression of reciprocity. If you seek and seek diligently, spiritually, you will find. You will find that which you seek. That becomes like an attraction. These are the activities that the human spirit engages in. By their activities, many distinguish themselves based on that which they seek. So it is very important to seek in the right way. When it is said, oh, it depends on this person, depends on that person, it doesn't depend. For what is not good for you, that means you yourself do not want to be destroyed. Why must you seek to destroy another? Is that not why Christ said you should love your neighbor as you love yourself? Is the other personality not a seeker like yourself? So when it is said, forgive thy neighbor, does it not mean the same thing? That as you yourself are a seeker, you may run into problems, and you wouldn't want to deliberately want to harm some other person? Is the other person not doing the same thing? Seeking, spiritual seeking, is different from the earthly seeking where people only wish to collect goods for themselves and live so-called happily thereafter. But before long, their bodies become so weakened and they succumb to the smallest puff of wind. So one must distinguish these things discern these things very clearly. It requires motion, inner motion. Above all, it requires a purified intellect, or one may refer to as a thorough, a deep sense of intuition. The differences among men comes in the way in which many express their intuitions. There are some who express it very simply. There are some who go about in a roundabout way. So for any personality that is seeking, the key thing is purify your intuitive perception.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Our discussion today has been a to and fro with the interaction of our listeners. So yet again, the listener has responded to, but it's a comment, so there's no need to go further. As you know, Gregory, we're talking about, I only mentioned the name because of the news, not because we want to talk about it as such, of the person. So the listener has said, with regard to Donald Trump, does he have any idea about discerning the truth? And how can one person be allowed to influence others to commit atrocities? How can so many people believe that version of the truth? So I just take that as a point, the person, or comment the person wants to share with us. I don't think we need to go into it further.
Sorry, may I just quickly add something to it?
Yes, if you want to say add to something, yeah, go on.
The thing is that what people say they're entitled to, the facts must be examined, not
right.
What people believe are the facts. And as you will have that those people who developed the vaccines went in and put things together and came up with a vaccine. If one wishes to have the facts, one needs to go in and see what they have done. However, when they then present the facts, these facts need to be tested and tested as best as they can before they are accepted. Like you mentioned, when, just for a change, you look at, in quotes, the ballot boxes or the ballot paper, where you have names of people on the same ballot paper, if you contest yours on that same ballot paper that it is not right, fair enough. It means, therefore, all others on the same ballot paper need to contest theirs. That's what you're referring to. And that being the case, where you won can also be contested. If, however, where you lost, you contest it, others can say, okay, fair enough, where you won, we have the right to contest it. However, it is not you yourself who counted it. It is the people designated who have counted it. As they counted at that time and they elected you, so they have also counted now and they say you did not win. So fair is fair. So whatever excuse people give, that would not be right. For fairness in the systems they have put in place is what they rely on.
Thank you for that, Gregory. Yes, with these things we can definitely, I mean, with this news, Gregory, there's so much we can talk on and on and on because there's so many aspects of it. And so I felt it was really good to pick this topic. And although it seemed, as you say, political, or consider maybe only looking at one nation, but even if it was of one nation, it is it's just a good let's say topic to explore with the variety of things that are involved in it. So I just thought that's why this topic is so good to discuss tonight, which I'll just remind, discerning the truth is what we are discussing tonight.
May I come in?
Yes, of course.
One question many people should have in their mind, for those who are in positions of responsibilities, because it's very important. If you, as heads of a unit, lie to the people, present false information, can you be trusted? Each personality must ask themselves that question. When again and again you lie, you take the facts, distort them, and present it another way, can you then be trusted? If you cannot be trusted, then how can one rely on you that whatever you are saying is correct? Now, one can imagine if a family is put in your hand, if a state is put in your hand, or a country, and you see danger approaching, and you wave away that danger, which danger now comes and overwhelms the people, and you agree that you yourself saw this danger, and you told them to stand down, not to bother. That means they should not be on the alert, they should not be vigilant. How can such a personality now claim to be genuine? Such are fake. Examine these things yourself. Doesn't mean you have to ask people. The facts are there. The motive is different. Which motive? Only is the strive for power, for personal gain. Examine these things again and again. Then one will be left with no doubts.
Thank you for those points, Gregory. It's I will say, I mean, in a way that for many of us it's so obvious what is happening in the situation, and others. What I think is happening, Gregory, is we can go on forever, as we have said about these things, because there are some things are very clear cut, they are clear cut, and then there's other factors where people are influencing. Because if you want to talk about it, we can say, oh, did everybody support what is happening there? And you could say, no, there's a mixture of people, they support this, and others are less like that, and they just all have been influenced. And if you look at it, can you trust this is right? Somebody who's lying, basically, can you trust? Well, of course not. It's clear cut. And I think what has happened is people have been swept. It's not they're bad people as such. They have a ideology or some thing that has an affinity with, let's say, this particular ideas, and then they come together. But unfortunately, it seems the wave has got out of control, and it's manifested in this way. So, because there are all of these people saying, "Oh, we are patriots, we are this, we are that." It's like we're not different from other rest of the Americans. We're the same, but unfortunately, the way they're expressing themselves, the way they're conducting themselves, is not an honourable way to be. So, it's like, because there's nobody. What I would say is there's no side that is completely innocent and pure. As I said, the other side also said, oh, when the Black Lives Matter protests happened, they were also doing violence, but and the police intervened there, but they didn't make such a big news like we are doing now. So it's like, what my point is simply this: there's not good in every place. There's good and bad everywhere, and how it's manifesting out is we are seeing it like this. We just see. So we can point it out here. We can point it out there. It's not, that's why it's not about, oh, one particular person is genuine and trustworthy and the other one is not so much. I feel if you look at it very, very objectively, you will notice there's no absolute black and white with the people. There's no purity in all the peoples. They all have some agenda. They all have some power game they're playing. And it's just this one is manifesting as it is right now, like this. This is how I can say that's what's happening here. But yes, there's an underlining thing of being trustworthy. Are you trustworthy or you're not? And that is very clearly here who's not trustworthy. So thank you for bringing that up. Gregory, we've just come almost to the end of the show. It's just the last 5 minutes to go. So what I want to do, I would like to read from the Grail message, the foreword of the Grail message for the listeners, which in a way we began with it by saying it talks about for your guidance. That's the title of the foreword of the Grail message, and I will just go ahead and read it. The bandage falls and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present-day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you're truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God, Abtrushin. So, dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show tonight. Hope you enjoyed the topic, Discerning the Truth. I think it was a very interesting discussion. Even if there were opposing views, I felt it was really good, discussion. So, Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Well, the discussions we had this evening has not even started. There is the need to first examine the work in the light of truth. After all, the topic is discerning the truth. We're one to be bold enough to examine the work. That is another perspective of discerning the truth. For it will shake one's intuition to the core.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Gregory. Really very good points you've made there. Yes, listeners, I thank you for being with us tonight. I also encourage you to pick up the Grail message and examine it for yourself. That is how you can discern for yourself what is the Grail message, and if it's the truth or whatever you think it is. It will be your examination, and you'll get your own judgment from that. So if you are interested in finding out about the Grail message or want to get a copy for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. We'll be back again next week as usual with another new topic for discussion, Tuesday evening, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. I wish you all a great week. God bless everybody. Take care. All the best.